Hey people, how you doing? And welcome to episode 83 of the Sports Therapy Association podcast. Very excited tonight. We are going to hit you with part 2 of our focus on CrossFit. That's what we're doing this January of 2022. If you missed part 1, then you can watch the YouTube video. It's on YouTube at the Sports Therapy Association YouTube channel. If you just want to listen to the audio, then simply download a podcast app onto your iPhone or your Android and look for the Sports Therapy Association podcast. And in fact, there's about 82 episodes now, which you can peruse through and get your free CPD from that. So my name is Matt Phillips. I'm the creator of RunChatLive.com. But as always, Tuesday at 8 o'clock, we are live on the Sports Therapy Association podcast, which is all about kind of putting some of the evidence back into sports therapy, or soft tissue therapy, I should say. You don't have to be a member of the STA to join us. You can join us live through the Sports Therapy Association Facebook page, which anyone can join. Or if you don't want to do it through Facebook, you can join us via the Sports Therapy Association YouTube channel. Both of them will allow you to come through and ask questions directly to the speakers, to comments, to share your Facebook or YouTube logo on the screen. You'll see shortly, if you're watching the live video, that comes up when you have something to say. And we would love you to join us live if you can. But if you can't, listening to the podcast, we hope that you enjoy that. And if you do please leave a rating, preferably of the number 5, and a little review. That really does help us just appear higher up when people do searches for sports therapy podcast or soft tissue podcast. If you appreciate what we do and you like the guests we have, the topics we talk about, then do please leave a rating. Take a minute out of your busy schedules to do so. So, like I said, last week we had the pleasure of talking to Robert Crowley and Sonia Fierro. It's a fantastic introduction to CrossFit, looking at where it came from, looking at how it's changed across the where was it, about 2000, early 2000s, so 20 plus years, looking at some of the myths and misconceptions, which even I had, and many people do have, about CrossFitters and what happens in a box. I'm getting the terminology now. Is everybody still vomiting in buckets in the corner? Are they still all kind of celebrating that pain is just weakness leaving the body and hitting each other with lead pipes? Or have they moved on a little bit? Is it true that people of a more varied age can actually benefit from CrossFit now, as opposed to the image we've got from the kind of the early 2000s up to 2010 probably? Part 2, I'm very excited to say we've got 3 fantastic guests to join us this evening. Gives me a rest from talking, which I'm sure you'll appreciate. And a wonderful insight into CrossFit. We have Professor Mark Wilson, who is Professor of Performance and Psychology at the University of Exeter, extremely published researcher with, off the top of my head, I think 147 or something papers out there, something like that. Excuse me if I've dropped one there. And also putting PhD students through at the University of Exeter, head of Department for Sport and Health Sciences there, and also has been in CrossFit for a number of years, still competing, still, as you will soon see, very strong, fine example of somebody from Exeter, although he's not from Exeter. We've also got Natalie Granger, who's a personal trainer, CrossFit coach at CrossFit Pi in East Devon, also creator of Shift Indoor Cycling, and something I love saying, it just rings nicely, former helicopter pilot with Commando Helicopter Force in the Royal Navy for 10 years. Very exciting. That's very admirable. Natalie's going to be giving us her experience in CrossFit, and also it's very exciting, as we'll hear soon. Natalie's looking forward to competing, I think, for the first time at the CrossFit Games in 2022 this year. So it'll be great to hear her experience and her hopes. And also, obviously, we're talking about injury. Talking of injury, we've got Anna Maria back, a firm favorite on the podcast. Anna Maria Mazzieri, soft tissue therapist and educator extraordinaire, director of the hugely respected The School. And that's how she knows these guys, because Anna Marie has got a clinic in one of the boxes and works, her and her students and staff work with CrossFitters, and have got a good insight into the injuries. And we'll be hearing about some tips on how to maybe assess these injuries, see what the problem is, how to deal with it, some of the misconceptions, and also into the psychology. Is it different working with a CrossFitter? Is there something different you need to do knowing they're into CrossFit? and that's where our other guests will kind of join in very much as well. So there's the introduction. As always, if you've got any questions, then just chime in. Sometimes my guests can see the comments in the side, sometimes they can't. I don't know what rules that. But as you can see, if you're watching the live show now, you can see names appear there. Hey, Catherine, how you doing? Catherine is on the screen saying hi, everyone. Gary Benson of the Sports Therapy Association, founder no less, is in the house as well. Hi, Gary, how you doing? Brian Huxley is here as well. Alistair Cunningham is here. How you doing? Emma Bergen's here. They're filling up the room massively, which is lovely to see. Thank you indeed for everybody who joins us live. Right, I think I've left them down in the dark, gloomy lobby for long enough. So what I'm going to do is bring up our guests in no particular order whatsoever. Let me get rid of that. And we'll bring up our guests in no particular order. Oh, this is always an issue. I'll have to bring her up first when I want to hear the last of it. Here's Maria Mazzieri. Hey, how you doing?
Good evening,
Nice
Mr. Phillips et al.
Thanks for
Good
joining
evening,
us,
everybody.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming back. You've been on here, I think, maybe more than any other guest now. I think you've beat Mike James, which is something to say. So thank you very much. You're always very welcome here.
Thank you.
Who should we go for next? Oh, I don't know. Beauty or the Beast? Oh no, I've really got to say, I'm not going to say who I'm going to bring up. I'm just going to pick one. There you go. Hi, hey Natalie, how you doing?
I think I cover both. Beauty and I can be a bit of a beast, exactly. So I'll take that. I was
pumping for. Nice one. Thank you for joining us, Natalie. Great to have you along. Appreciate your time. And then last but by no means least, we have Professor Mark Wilson from the University of Exeter as well. Hey Beast, how are you?
I'll respond to Beast, no problem.
There you go, fantastic. Right, so thank you so much again, you three, for joining us this evening. It's really nice. You guys know each other already, don't you? Tell me how you guys met. Let's start off with that, because that will kind of cover part of it as well.
From the gym. Oh, sorry, from the box.
In there,
from the box.
So you were there one day, Anne-Marie, where you lifting and doing some kind of monkey flips, whatever they're called, and hip press pull-ups, and suddenly you saw Natalie helping you.
I'm gonna leave it there. The good thing about this is one of the good things about CrossFit. It is a family, and you cannot just going into the gym, drop in and drop out. You become part of that environment. That is the dramatically positive. So, and I've been there since our clinic was there since actually the box was created.
Oh, fantastic! This is down.
It's one of the best boxes ever because it's very friendly.
Wow. Okay, so you've definitely earned your money there. That's fantastic. And this is CrossFit Pi, isn't it? And there's two boxes. Just for people who know that part of the world, where are they?
So CrossFit Pi is just south of Exeter, so just off the M5, and CrossFit Theatre, which is our sister gym, is also on the M5, just off Wellington services, so up towards Somerset. Okay,
so if you're in the area, then you know where these people are located, just in case you want to pop in and say hi and become part of the family. And Natalie, how did you get involved with CrossFit?
So I was a personal trainer up in London, and someone said to me, "Oh, you should try this workout." And it was one of the first. It was the 20.1 in the CrossFit Open, and it was ground to overhead and burpees over the bar. And I didn't finish it under the time cap, and I couldn't understand, as a fit personal trainer who is charging people a lot of money for my services, why I couldn't finish this workout. And that was me. I was just hooked from there. Moved to Devon.
I don't want to stereotype, but with you having a military background, does that can I automatically assume that you were quite hardcore and you would have taken it quite personally if you didn't complete this?
Oh yeah, I just couldn't get my head around it at all. Yeah. I mean, it just didn't make any sense to me whatsoever that I couldn't finish it. And yeah, moved to Devon, got in touch with the boys who run CrossFit Pi, and did my level 1 certification, which is what all coaches have to do before they can coach CrossFit. And started from there, and have just sort of loved the whole experience, to be honest. The whole family thing that Anna talks about, the workouts, being a CrossFit coach is, I think, one of the best jobs going around.
So positive tonight, it's great.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, everything has its negatives, but for me, having a class of 10, 12 people in front of you, all with different movement faults, that all need correcting quickly because you've only got an hour with all of them, is a great way to develop as a personal trainer and a coach.
Fantastic. Very interesting. And indeed, we did kind of touch on last week with Robert and Sonia about how the family nature of CrossFit can be really quite useful when it comes to exercise adherence and getting people to actually, which is one of the biggest problems, as I'm sure Anna Maria will talk later on, when you give exercises to patients or clients. A lot of them just don't do it because they're trying to do it by themselves in their bedroom with a TheraBand, and they're never going to do it. It's just the most unexciting thing in the world. So that can be one of the benefits of CrossFit. Talking of what people do and don't do, that was a nice segue into Professor Mark Wilson. You researched that a little bit, don't you? Behaviour, I've been told.
Yeah, just a bit. But I mean, in terms of CrossFit, I mean, I preferred the link family because I actually started because I turned up about 6 years ago with my two daughters who were, I think, 8 and 10 at the time, and they started before I did. And it was actually watching them and watching the other people in the gym do their stuff. I thought, oh, that muscle up, I want to learn how to do that, or I want to be able to walk on my hands. So that first summer, they started in August, we had a competition who could learn to walk on their hands first. So I did that before I actually joined the box properly, gym, box, whatever. Yeah, so the family idea for me was literally family because I took my two girls who weren't interested in any other sport that I tried to get them involved in. So yeah, that was probably the in for me bringing my kids.
What year was that about? Just to get an idea.
Must have been 2015, 26, the summer of 2015.
I'm just trying to get an idea then because you're not from military background, no?
No, I mean, again...
But you are from fighting background, so maybe there's a bit of a crossover in terms of...
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I used to compete in mixed martial arts professionally, and then I coached it for a while. Then I got sensible and took up Ironman because that was less likely to get injured. But I mean, again, the other interesting story, I think for me, perspective in terms of injury, I arrived at CrossFit with I had a torn bicep when someone tried to pull my arm off a few years back. And a physio told me that I was watching these people do muscle ups and stuff, and I was going, I get some impingement when I do pull ups, so I probably can never do that. And a therapist that I went to said, no, you're right. You're in your 40s now. There's plenty of other exercises you could do instead. And when I went into CrossFit Pi, one of the coaches there said, that's nonsense. Don't worry about that. I'll show you how you can do this moving better. And pain not being, always what you think it is, as in I'm getting hurt here. That's just a signal. So I must admit that my experience of therapy and injury and those things was probably more pronounced and more evidence-based in CrossFit than it had been definitely in a career in fighting.
Very interesting. Cool. So when you walked into the gym, you were kind of no stranger to dealing with maybe a little bit of pain, understanding that you don't have to do an exercise with no pain. You can go through a little bit as part of it. So it wasn't a total shock to you, because I'm interested to start off in your experience, both as Anna Maria, as you working with CrossFit athletes, Natalie working with them, being surrounded by them, and Mark being with them as well. Has CrossFitters changed in terms of the kind of 2010 Californian beautiful bodied, already fit person? Is there still that element inside boxes, or has it changed since then over the last kind of 10 years? Anybody?
I go for it. I think it's one of the most inclusive. I would not go to my local gym because of my size and weight. I have no problem to enter into CrossFit. Nobody cares the way I look. Nobody cares the way how much I weigh. It's so inclusive from that perspective. Any shape, any background, and that I think for me, just that's what made me feel comfortable immediately. And it's the hedonist idea, I think, definitely has changed.
That's really interesting, and I think that will clear up a lot of misconceptions, because I know people do think it's just a bunch of kind of fit, beautiful people who hang out together and impress each other, and it's not that at all.
I think there's probably such a small percentage of people in our gym. And I hopefully across all CrossFit boxes, maybe 5-10% is that sort of group of people who are maybe a little bit pushing towards the elite level, so they are competing at a high level, they are training twice a day, but the majority of people that we see in classes are either new to exercise, new to CrossFit, all different shapes and sizes, and the idea that you can get all of those 10 very different people doing exactly the same workout scaled appropriately is that basically the whole thing of CrossFit, and that's why people love it. So generally, if people get through the door in the first place, then they'll keep coming back.
That's a beautiful thing. That's really healthy now in terms of psychology and Mark, and just people realizing that they can do exactly the same as other people.
Well, I mean, I think one of the things that's important to recognize about motivation is that nearly everybody has multiple motivations for doing anything. And I think CrossFit, for me, had a number. So again, this is my story, so it's not the same as everyone. So I was someone who was used to competing. I was someone who was used to, punishing myself or having someone else punish me. But I was also someone that really enjoyed learning skills. That was part of what fighting was for me, learning how to do techniques. And when you go to CrossFit, it wasn't just, right, well, how, go flat out, see what you can do or see how heavy you can lift. There was, I want to learn how to do that. That to me, that sort of skill acquisition piece was important. Aesthetics, trying to look better, trying to get stronger, trying to see what my body could do. So, when you've got multiple motivations, competing with my mates, in the session, whatever it might be, every one of those is a piece of why I would keep turning up. And on one day, it might be something different than on another day. So, I think having multiple sources of motivation for whatever you love and whatever exercise is going to keep you healthy. And again, that's going to be important for you guys as therapists in terms of getting people. So I'm getting messages from people listening to this and trying, Rocky, stop it. But yeah, so that is absolutely important that people have multiple motivations and you can target different ones at different times. And the more you can fit a whole piece, the more likely people are going to continue to turn up.
Gary Benson just said here, it's always good to compete with the kids whilst they're small enough not to win, Mark. Yeah, it's true, especially
totally agree with that, especially in fighting sports, I find, because that is really useful.
Yeah, I mean, Gary's like 6'5", and I think his kids are practically nearly all taller than him now, so he probably got it. It was very wise in your case, Gary. They all even dwarf you now. Okay, so yeah, very interesting. Right, tonight's all about injury then. That's what we're focusing on tonight. So we've already dismissed this notion, which I want to come back to later on, because I think if you realize CrossFit can appeal to a larger audience, then straight away you start thinking, oh, maybe if this person needs to improve their strength, mobility, maybe CrossFit is a door that would appeal to them. Whereas before, people might have thought, no way, I can't send them to CrossFit, they'll never come out alive, sort of thing, or it just wouldn't be their cup of tea. But before we go into that, what about the idea that CrossFit has a high prevalence of injury? Is it because there's going to be this idea as well that if you're going to CrossFit, you're kind of raising your risk of getting injured compared to just going down the gym or doing some kind of slower weights? Is it fair? Is it a higher risk of injury? Do we know if there's any research, or is it a little bit exaggerated?
Well, there is. Probably, Mark, you're best one to explain that. But there is the Klimek et al. Research review that came out. I think, out of 100 studies, I think only 3 there were good studies, and still with risk of bias. But what were the results, Mark? Do you? Yeah.
I think that there's a 2018 review, and there's been a number of, I think as a new sport, I think I was saying before we came on, the quantity of research is now coming out, is expanding, but the quality, not necessarily. And I think that's an issue with injury research in general, from what I see as a scientist and as someone that does research myself. It's not always easy, but if you're going to define injury, you have to be consistent with how you define it. And across studies, that isn't the case. So if you're looking at incident rates of injury, well, if in one study you're saying, okay, something that stopped you training in the last 2 years, in another study you're saying in the last 6 months, something where you had to get medical treatment. So across studies, it's very hard to compare. But there's been a 2021 recent review, which had about 20 studies in it, and generally it comes out that the risk of injury in CrossFit is pretty similar to other either contact or lifting sports, and probably not that dissimilar to running and even non-contact sports. So I think the evidence isn't there that it's risky in that way. And something you said before you asked about the study is that the thing that I notice most in a CrossFit gym, and again, I've got friends my age, sort of late 40s, early 50s, is the improved way they move. I notice much more than how many injuries we might pick up every now and then, overuse injuries or fatigue. The fact that someone would come in and couldn't do an air squat, and now they can do an overhead squat with, an Olympic bar with weights on it. That's what I notice more than anything in the gym, what people can do after doing CrossFit for a period of time compared to what they can't do, or what injuries they're picking up. Their improvements is definitely more noticeable looking around the gym. That's anecdotal, I appreciate, but I think I hit the science to start with.
No, it's very good. I think it's very similar. We were chatting off air, it's similar to running, how you define an injury. And also there's a danger, isn't it, as always with research, like running is, I think, it can be between 15 and 70% prevalence, depending on which study you refer to. So if you want to criticize running, then you just go to the 70%.
Yeah.
So you're all doing it wrong. You need to wear these shoes. Don't you know that it's 70%? And if you want to defend, you just say, it's 15%. So it's dangerous, isn't it?
The methodology is so varied. It's not consistent. But what is consistent to the three studies, that the injury risk calculated against the 1,000 hours is around 3.1, 3.3. You got ice hockey that is, I think, more than 50. Instead, you got football is 4.2 to 5. So actually, football seems to have a higher injury rate. So it's all very relevant, and I don't think you can base on that.
Okay, so we've got some interesting stuff here for people who are listening. One, it's not all. Don't feel that your clients should never go to CrossFit because they're going to walk in there and be kind of just people looking at them and going, what are you doing here? Get out. You can't even do this. That's not going to happen, according to these people. And also, two, you don't have to be hugely fit to enter it in the first place. And you're not going to make yourself worse. So that's something which I think has real big implications for sports therapists or soft tissue therapists when they are thinking about maybe who to work with. I mean, maybe you've all got your strength and conditioning guy down the road who works at the gym, and you send them stuff and they send you people. Maybe, especially as CrossFit is getting more popular now, it's time to strike up, if you're looking for your business, which at the end of the day, a lot of people are, to include in your circles some coaches at your local CrossFit center. They can work both ways as well. How about, okay, so that's good. So we're opening up the door to that. What about, let's go to actually the most common injuries, okay, either through research or what you see, anecdotal or whatever. And as we're doing so, maybe look at some of the reasons for why those injuries are the most prevalent. So
actually what we see in clinic really reflects what research says. 25% of CrossFit injuries from those three papers seem to be shoulders, and just slightly less seems to be knee. And this is exactly what we say, because they
At my end, I apologise for the lack of sound or the freezing. It was only momentarily, don't worry.
Okay, fantastic. So
just repeat what you said about.
So it's definitely the shoulder and the knee, because in CrossFit you use especially the shoulder, those end ranges and high load and fast. So it
all got too good to be true. Apologies for that. Anne-Marie will be back, I'm sure.
I mean, I can, having had a quick look at the research, as I say, I'm not a sports therapist, but I had a quick look at some of the studies. Yeah, shoulder, lower back, knees, and the main cause of injury generally is the weightlifting. So the Olympic lifts seem to be the main cause. And some of the science seems to suggest that might be because those lifts are done under fatigue, high loads under fatigue. That's what the research says. Anna Maria may tell us something different.
Yeah, what was interesting from the research actually is that they found that male participants had higher rate of injuries than female, but also they brought in a different element, which they said is people that they were coached, they had lower injury risks. Or low, yes. So they injury rates were lower. So that I thought was quite interesting as well. And this is something that, especially, at Pi, but Natalie, you're better to speak with that. That kind of programming is really, really important. But if we go back a moment to why, there are injuries, it's like in any other case, in any other sport, in any other activity, you miss those what Mike James, the endurance physio, called the big rocks. If you lack the lifestyle factor, your sleep, your fatigued, your stress, your nutrition, unless those ones are sorted, you are increasing your risk factors, or actually, having an injury. We can never prevent injury. This is, we discussed it a little bit offline a while ago about can we really prevent injury? Injuries cannot be prevented. Can we reduce some of the risk factors, or can we mitigate some of the risk factors massively? And some of the risk factors, those lifestyle risk factors, are way bigger and more important than some of those biomechanical risk factors. As sports therapists or soft tissue therapy, we're still giving too much consideration to the biomechanical risk factors and not enough to these other risk factors. But coaching is a very important. Coaching and periodization is a very big. It's not the load, like Tim Gambett said, it's not the load that breaks you, it's the load that you're not prepared for.
So I'm interested with this, and I'm going to come to you, Natalie, with this. I'm interested because traditionally, CrossFit started off at a time like in the early 2000s when there was quite a lot of exciting new methodologies appearing. You had your pull check and your Grays and NASM, and it was suddenly it was all about integrated training, and stability balls came out, and there was a lot of ideas which are produced by some really intelligent people, like of how to lift safely and the mechanical reasons for pain. Since then, a lot of those professionals, I'll mention, for example, Kelly Starrett, for example, because I was really interested in, he produced this book called The Supple Leopard, which a lot of therapists have probably read. It was back in 2013, I think. And for me, it was a bit like Chris McDougall's Born to Run. It was something that at the time was really attractive. A lot of people read it. It became a Bible very quickly. It put every pain problem basically down to a mobility issue. And some of the things that Kelly came out with at the time was very posture focused: how to sit, how to stand. If you want to avoid injury, move this way. Everyone's the same. This is how you do a squat. Knees back, don't pass the toe, lined up with your feet. And at the time, loads of people jumped onto that. And we know now, even I read an interview with Kelly, and the same happens with a lot of professionals back then. And now he's moved on. He's saying there's no one way to squat. It'd be ridiculous to assume that everyone who comes into the box has to move in the same way because of anatomical variance, because of the psychology behind it. People are going to move differently because all individuals and stuff like that. He's changed, and a lot of the other people from those times have changed. But I wonder whether coaches across all gyms have changed, or whether it depends on some coaches have kept up with the methodology and they're kind of thinking about rest, diet, or whether there's a danger of some coaches still teaching what was kind of preached back in Supple Leopard days. Natalie, what's your experience?
That was a very long intro question. I would say that, so on CrossFit's part, I think they're doing a good thing. A lot of coaches might not agree because they have to pay for it, but coaches have to re-qualify every couple of years. So you don't just get qualified like you do as a personal trainer and then you go off for a 30-year career and you're still teaching stuff that's 30 years old. You have to re-qualify, which does keep people, I think, up to date with the likes of social media, and which is definitely a positive tool a lot of the time. Don't get me wrong, can be negative as well. But I think the good coaches out there will be constantly updating what they know, and they will be learning from people around them, learning from the level 2, level 3 coaches that are in their box, learning from the sports therapists, learning from their own injuries, personal experience. I've had shoulders, no knee problems, touch wood, shoulders and hip, lower back a little bit, and putting that into practice as you go along. I'd like to hope that everyone else does that as well. Obviously, you can't guarantee it though. But that's kind of, I think I heard in the podcast last week, they touched on the point that every box is different, and that's a good thing. And that if you go to a box and you don't like it, it might just be that box. It might not be CrossFit that you don't like. That's what the beauty of CrossFit. You need to move around, try different boxes, try different coaches at your box, and find something that works for you.
How about the biomechanics? You mentioned earlier on, like you've got 100 people in front of you and they're moving in ways which you've identified as potentially wrong. How much of a factor, how much are you correcting the way people move, or does it vary from person to person?
Yeah, I think that was one of the first things I kind of learned, was that everyone moves differently. And I started reading Supple Leopard when I first qualified, but I didn't get all the way through it. But yeah, everyone moves differently. And a lot of the issues that people have are very similar. So actually, things like ankle mobility, starting at the feet, like generally people's feet are the main problem with everything that they're doing. So generally we always start looking at the bottom up. And actually, if you can start fixing some of those problems earlier on, and helping people move better, then simple cues can actually help the whole class. And everyone would benefit from keep your chest up as a cue. A lot of people would benefit from that to help them move better, because they get that supervision without having a one-to-one sort of situation, which can help build their confidence, which I think is super important for everything, especially with the Olympic lifting.
I was going to say, with Olympic lifting, there is a skill, isn't there? There's more of a skill for these. If you're going to do it successfully and be able to get the bar up and not put too much weight, I suppose there is very much in CrossFit a skill, so you need to get that across. Sorry, you.
And Martin, when me and Martin always have a chat about this, because obviously comes from he's an excellent coach, and we talk about, are we really fixing, or are we really, do people can move better? And Martin says it, Martin Atley, which is the owner of the gym, he always says it's about efficiency, Anna. When you're going and lifting heavy loads, it's all about efficient movement. We're not talking about pain. This is my realm. That's why they come to me. But for them, it's about, Natalie correctly said, about the range of motion of the ankle. If they have potential to achieve a greater range of motion that they're already achieving, it's good for them to achieve the range during, the deep squat, for example. And this is like for us, I don't believe in movement screens, okay? So for me but I will check the potential of movement on those particular joints. So for example, on the shoulders, if I know that they have potential to 180, I will help them, support them to achieve the 180 range of motion. If they only have 170, because that is the natural range, because anatomically that's what they achieve, then we speak to the coaches and we discuss, and that person will achieve the 170. So everything around it will revolve around the 170. So, and that's where you have great coaches like Nat, where she would say, actually, I got 10 people there. The issues might be very similar, because they usually are, but the individuality of the person is up to the coach. Knows every single person there, and they know every single potential. And this is why I like, because it's about achieving their potential and not focusing too much on what they don't have.
Yeah, so for me, that's one of the key roles of the coach, is to know your audience, so know who's in your class, and scale the workout appropriately for them. So scaling is like one of safety first, but scaling is next. So injuries happen because, like Anna said, people aren't ready for the load. So sometimes it's up to the coach to advise people to maybe reduce the load, reduce the range of motion. So, if it's their second session, doing butterfly pull-ups might not be ready for them. They might have the strength to do it, but they haven't built themselves up to be ready for doing 20 at a time. And yeah, I think Mark wanted to touch on a point regarding like ego, and like that is I think that's one of the main causes of injuries, is that people's ego gets ahead of them. They try and do something they've seen their mates doing, they think they can do. And that's where having a coach and being in a class, your coach should hopefully most of the time rein that in a little bit and build you up until you're ready, and then celebrate with you when you eventually get to that, major milestone, whatever it may be.
Go ahead and touch on that. You read my mind, because I was interested to see how much in CrossFit the ego, because it is such loads of people around doing different stuff. How much is that a problem? What are the pros and cons of people seeing something and really wanting to get that done now in terms of potential injury, Mark?
Yeah, well, I mean, like with probably any element of life, there's a thin balance between, those trying to push yourself to improve and knowing when that's not right. And, often the individual isn't the best person to make that judgment because of emotion, ego, fatigue, stress, lots of reasons. There's tons of ways in which our attention can be disrupted, our thought processes can be disrupted, and we make bad choices and make bad decisions. And unfortunately, in a movement paradigm, you can also disrupt good movement patterns for those reasons as well. So all of these are an issue. So I think good coaching is important there. But I mean, something, it's important that each athlete takes some ownership as well over that. But what's difficult, I think it's not just one of the things I noticed as an athlete myself now, or a participant. One of the things that's difficult is that you're always looking for these steps that you've made. So you might be, say you're doing pull-ups and you're using a purple band to help you. When you get onto the red band, you don't want to go back to the purple band again because I'm now red band. I'm looking to go to the next. I want to go to no band or jumping. So where I think, again, this is absolutely anecdotal, me, be careful about generalizing this, is that sometimes it's that idea of you now know how to do something and you want to put it into a workout. And so you maybe shouldn't have, or you maybe should have reined it back in or taken a break or whatever. So I think that could be one of the difficulties, one of the sort of traps is too hard a word, but of CrossFit for people that are generally competitive, generally wanting to do better, generally interested in scaling a mountain of difficulty. It's knowing when that's not the appropriate time. And I know for myself, there's certain workouts where a coach will have said, look, this workout's all about getting sweaty. So if you can't do these reps, just scale it back because we just want to see you do lots of different things. Whereas this one might be, this is a good chance for you to practice that skill. If you have to drop down, take a couple of moments before you go up and do it again, that's perfect because this is the chance to do that. And that level of, I guess that sort of targeting is important because, as I say, the athlete is not always the best source of information on what's best for them.
Yeah, I have a little bit of couldn't agree more, but there is a couple of things that one thing I want to pick up on, which I personally struggle is I think in CrossFit and the type of environment, we need to start changing the terminology and stop using the word good movement like we have stopped using it in rehab. This is because the movement is so individualized. But I know exactly what you guys mean because but actually there is no good or bad movement. That is individualized movement. Is movement for that person at the time. But there is also efficient movement, and that is where. And in pain, we've seen that. In pain, we used to be, and I know I was one of those. I used to love this upper leopard and all this. I did all of it, and I used to do movement screens. I used to love FMS. But actually, now we understand that it is a little bit more complex than that. That's why I like to move, instead of say good movement, I like to say efficient movement, Because if we say good movement, the person next to me that in the class might think that, you know, what the person next to me is doing the perfect movement, but actually it's perfect for them, but might not be for me. So, but efficient movement, that is important, because especially like Martin said, you know, when you lift heavy, there are some movement that you can be more efficient in lifting the particular load.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, like, there's a lot in science about self-organization of dynamical systems. So this idea that it depends on the constraints on a system will create a movement outcome that's perfect for that system. So we all start off differently built, differently shaped. I mean, if you look at even the elite end of weightlifting, none of those guys lift exactly the same. They've all got some of the, I mean, I'm not an expert weightlifter, but I watch it because I'm interested. But, you know, you don't go, there's the perfect weightlifting technique. Yeah. You know, in fact, there's absolute ridiculous differences in terms of those that split jerk versus squat jerk. But even, you know, in terms of the way they clean, the way they snatch, you know, their head positions might be different. Their starting positions are different. And all that might be dependent on functional differences or just what they're trying to be in environment.
It's environment. Yeah. In fact, a healthy joint is a joint that is very variable into that. But within all of that, there is definitely some standards, you know, efficiency. So absolutely. But I think because I knew exactly what you guys were saying when you were saying good movement patterns, but I think for our clients, for our, you know, gym members, I think we need to start giving the word of efficiency, because then they give them power. Because if I say to somebody, oh yeah, you know, you look at one of the guys, oh my God, look, the overhead is fantastic. Yes, because it's got great range of motion on the shoulders. I will never have the range of motion of the shoulders. So I will never be able to do an overhead like that, because anatomically I'm different. But that person in the head, they think, oh, I need to be like him or like her. But no, we are different. So instead, if we use the word, I know that I'm a bit of a stickler with words. If we use the word efficient, it gives you so much power, doesn't it? It's something that we can change. We can, but that's just me. I just like, I don't even speak English properly, but I like words.
I think it's a really valid point. It really helps educate. Changing the word can really change the chip inside the patient or client in front of you. It is really relevant. I think most soft tissue therapists have understood the importance of changing a word, with certain clients understand that what we say can have a great effect on even how much that person's in pain. So it's interesting. I'm conscious of the time, so I'm interested about the relationship. Anna Marie, do you share clients with Natalie then?
So, well, not myself personally, but the guys that work up there, yes, they do. So, okay, it's quite a good.
So, give me an idea, maybe. I mean, Natalie, you might not be more aware. Then you can either draw on real people or just kind of like generalize. But how successful is it when somebody is in pain? Okay, let's use pain as the kind of denominator. That there's a working relationship between the therapist and the coach in terms of getting that person out of pain. Does the dialogue help?
So it can, definitely, absolutely, 100%. You'll find with CrossFitters that when they get injured or are in pain, they will keep training. You can tell them not to train, but either way, they're going to train. The key, I think the clinic and my gym do quite well is that we talk to each other if someone's injured, and we work around the problem. So we allow people to train, just we know what they can and can't do. And, you know, it's stuff like if people have got a knee problem and the workout is squat cleans, they'll power clean instead. So rather than squatting, they'll come up and won't do the squat. You know, there's always something they can do. And that for people, I think that's part of the beauty of CrossFit, is that there's always something you can do. There's always something you can scale that workout to receive the same stimulus that's intended and still enjoy it. I guess I think it could be a really, really good relationship for sports therapists to have between them and a coach, and it would give people just so much more hope and like willingness to train, because they know that they're getting something else stronger whilst that is being worked on.
Because one of the challenges of working with CrossFitters, and we discussed a few days ago, there is a little bit of, and I'm saying that with, it's not criticism, there is a little bit of obsessiveness in that behavior. So sometimes, well, to be honest, I will do that with any client, even with my 70-year-old Dorothy, but changing the movement, changing their activity, their meaningful activity is the last thing I want to do, unless they really need to, unless they have something that they definitely cannot do the activity. I prefer saying to them, go back, go and see Natalie, continue the class, then we can speak to Natalie, say, actually, can we modify the load? Because that's what it's all about. Reduce the load first. And then if the movement itself still creates a problem, or doesn't hinders recovery, then we'll change. But usually let's keep them into the meaningful activity, because otherwise you're not working as part of their team, you're working against them. They will not listen to you. You have to build therapeutic alliance, and building therapeutic alliance often is understanding where they are. For some of our boys and girls, the CrossFit, the coming to the box, is the very important thing to relieve the stress, is the meaningful, is the family.
Cool. And this relationship could happen via email. You don't have to talk face to face. It could be done via Zoom calls, by the three of you getting together, or just the two of you. So yeah, the power of the relationship working together. Sorry, Mark, I interrupted you. What were you going to say?
I can't remember now. But no, I think I was going to say that
been hit too many times in the head. It's also the same with fighters.
Office and elite sport, being away from the main, one of the things that athletes struggle with is the fact that they're no longer on the pitch with their mates. Now they're off with a therapist doing their individual stuff, and it sucks because that's not what they want. So there is a difficulty there. I mean, also, I remember what I was going to say now, that one of the coaches at Pi once said to me that when you're talking about what that hour in the gym, he said that, generally that could be our client's best hour of the day. So that is important. Losing that, it has got a major follow on effects to lots of things like mood and so forth. So I agree that you want to be doing everything you can between coach and therapist to make sure that you can maintain the positive elements of what people are getting out of their sporting experience.
Fantastic.
One thing I wish, and I wish I had done this on myself as well, is that I don't think people go soon enough to see the therapist. So I think for me, I had a little niggle in my shoulder. Something didn't quite feel right, but I carried on training, carried on adding load, kept going, and then boom, injury. I generally tell people, if people look like they're sort of wincing, or maybe they're not putting that extra load on, why aren't you going up with your percentages? And they said, oh, my hip's a little bit niggly, or my knee feels a bit weird. That's the point that I now then just refer and just say, just book in, go chat to someone, let them have a look at how you move. That's not within the confines of an hour, and get them to sort out the niggles first. I think that's where a sports therapist can be really, really useful pre-injury, helping people move better. And sorting out problems before they become serious issues. That's my personal.
No, very good point. I worry sometimes, it's not always the case, but I worry sometimes that athletes and kind of recreational athletes, they're worried about going to see a therapist, maybe because they're scared that they're going to say it's something serious and they're going to be told they can't do it again. But also, I think there's a little bit like that kind of car salesman thing where they're going to kick their tire and go, oh, you're going to need 6 or 7 treatments with this. And they're just thinking how it's going to affect their pocket. And both are something we need to change our industry, aren't they, Anne-Marie?
I love working with CrossFit because with the guys and the girls up there, because actually they're so self-efficacy is their word. So they might sometimes come regularly for massage just because they love the treatment and they love not feeling tight. But they come, they have an ego, like Nat says, refer it to us, we have a look at it, we reassure them, because this is one of the things that, how do we work with CrossFitters? First of all, this is my absolute personal anecdotal experience mine and the therapists I work with, that we need to reassure them, because as soon as they go and niggle into the shoulder, they think something is gone wrong, or it might be my labrum. Yes, mate, you are 55. It probably could be your labrum, but believe me, your labrum might have been in problem 5 years ago when you didn't feel any pain. It could be that actually you came to the gym while you were tired, while you didn't eat properly, or you didn't sleep very well. All these things so I have to make them aware of other factors that might be influencing the pain, while I allow natural history to take place and give them the really nice environment where they love the massage. They absolutely love the massage. But it's really important that we reassure them, because they're so biomechanically led that when they feel the pain in the shoulder, that's the only thing that they think is pain in the shoulder, pain in the shoulder, pain in the shoulder. Actually, the pain can be other factors, or can be made amplified by other factors that you can control. And often it's about, during the time, say, look, take a little bit, this is going to take a few weeks. I'll support you in those few weeks to make you feel better and things. And then you're de-threatening the situation. And you know what? They feel less anxious, they feel less fearful. You're working as part of their team to create a better environment for the body to heal itself, really.
Smashing, superb. Right, look, it's 4 minutes to. People have been very quiet listening tonight. The people in there, is it because you're taking notes down, or I'm looking out there if anyone's asking me questions, but you're all gone a little bit quiet. I'm just going to read a couple out here. So Catherine said a while back now, I'm guessing it would be the same in the gym, where people go into a gym with no experience may be more likely to be injured than if they were guided by a personal trainer. I guess it all depends on the personal trainer, isn't it? And that's one of the things I'm taking away from today is, yeah, it's a great idea getting a coach, but it depends what the coach is saying. It's a great idea going to see a soft tissue therapist, but it depends what the soft tissue therapist is saying. Both professionals can make your life hell and keep you in pain, or make the pain even worse. So you've got to shop around, and you need some kind of indication as to whether the person you're seeing is up to date, whether they're saying something different than they said. That's always a good sign. If they're saying something different than they wrote or said 5-10 years ago, that's brilliant. It shows they're not scared to change, and they realize that things do evolve the whole time. But in terms of people listening to this podcast, you got it sorted, because all you got to do is make sure you either get some coaching tips from Natalie Granger here, or whether you kind of get some massage treatment and education from the school. So with that in mind, Natalie, to you first of all. People want things like programs and to get some quality material. You are involved in supplying this, aren't you? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I think this leads it back into what we were saying earlier about not being ready for a load. Training needs to be progressive, and each box will write their own programming in general. I'm part of a team called Built by Atlas, who write gym programming for both our boxes and multiple other boxes, and also individuals. And it's progressive training, and that's what's key. So we build you up through phases, and we allow you to work on different movement patterns, different lifts, but still all within the CrossFit realm. So high intensity, but it's a mixture of weightlifting, gymnastics, strength, metcons, and it kind of puts it all in a package for people. And I think it's one of the better programming teams out there, obviously, because I work for them.
Obviously, that's fine. You'd be championing what you're proud of. And this Built by Atlas, is the website as it sounds, Built by Atlas, or where should they go to?
Built by Atlas. If you just pop that in Google, you'll find it, and just drop us a note if you're interested, or a box you work in is interested, or you have an individual who maybe needs some more guidance. That's the kind of thing that it's for.
Okay, there you go, people. So Built by Atlas, and you can look at program. I love the way you guys call it scaling. In case you're into the podcast and say, why are they talking about all these reptiles and scaling and stuff? Scaling is just progression and regression. Yeah, it's exactly what therapists.
And that's why at Pi, they're so good. That's why, from an outsider, I don't do CrossFit, just in case you were. From an outsider, that's why the guys at Pi, the coaches are very good, because they spend hours in the periodization,
nice
and
word.
That's it. They are building the right strength, power at the right time, in that period. They're just outstanding. But it takes a lot of work, obviously, and they're putting the work in.
It was interesting to hear last week that like scaling's been there since the very beginning. Sonia was saying CrossFit was built on scaling. It was one of the kind of intricate things they came out with. So it's always been there. It's just we've only seen for 10 years, we just saw the top of the scale. We saw the people doing incredible things because that suited their bodies. But there's always been this principle of scaling. So good for you therapists out there who are maybe not up to date or not confident with regressions and progressions. Again, you'll get something off your CrossFit coach by chatting to them and talking things through and going out and sharing a frappuccino or something somewhere. Anna Maria talks about the school. If people are soft tissue therapists and they are interested in upgrading their skills and they think I need to evolve a little bit as a therapist, what do they do?
Oh, you can come and have a chat with us, and we have different courses, continuing professional development courses, ranging from Ben Cormack is coming in a few weeks' time to teach his movement course, to courses on joint or area specific, ranging from assessment, treatment, rehabilitation. Or if you want to update your understanding and become a modern current therapist, you can come and join our upgrade course. But today I'm here more as a practitioner myself, really, and as a practitioner to share my experience on working with CrossFit, because it's highly rewarding. You know, when we always talk about self-efficacy, this is the cohort of people that they are excellent. You work with, you provide them with support, and they take the support, and self-management for them is the word. It is the classic self-management client. So you'll enjoy that.
Very good, excellent. What a lovely, if you're praising it, then that's definitely worth a therapist checking it out. I think even these 2 episodes, we've got another 2 episodes of CrossFit based discussion. The last one will probably be a group discussion where people are encouraged to come along and chat about what you've heard so far, what you heard in the first 3 episodes. But even now, we're painting a much clearer picture. I don't do CrossFit. I haven't done weight training apart from a little kettlebell in my bedroom by myself when no one's watching for a while. That's about it. No, I know exactly. It's not pretty these days, but I still do it, and it's just to keep me able to get out there and run and stuff. But so I don't frequent gyms anymore, but it's definitely changed my image of CrossFit, and I'm hoping that people listening to the podcast are understanding now that it's not what it was painted, and it's probably not what is still portrayed on Instagram, because sadly social media doesn't give us a very good image. You know, it is still very much body beauties on Instagram, which are quite nice to flick through sometimes and scroll through, but it's not painting a very accurate picture of what CrossFit is all about. Surprise, surprise. Who thought social media doesn't paint an accurate picture? Mark, you spend far too much time in the University of Exeter to entertain writing a blog or anything like that. But if people are interested in what you do, I suppose they can look up your papers if they just go to kind of Skillgate or something and check you out. You've got quite a few on them to go through.
Yeah. But I mean, again, I guess what I would say is just that, you know, being aware of your mental state and the effect that has on outcomes is important. So most of my work is be aware of your mental state and how that can affect your performance. But obviously part of performance is causing of injury. So be aware that if you're coming in carrying stress, being distracted, you are massively increasing your risk of injury. So, you know, checking in with yourself, you know, being mentally aware of your thought processes. Self-awareness for me is always the first skill that I work with clients. And I don't work, as you say, I don't work with very many clients anymore. But if you know, I think that is important. Being aware of your mental state and the implications that has for all elements of performance in terms of, will I hit this 1 rep max? Can I maintain this pace in the, I know Anna Maria doesn't like peeing cave, but in terms of that, you know, sort of slogging along at some kind of threshold, but also in terms of how it might affect movement patterns, attention, whatever, to cause injury.
Fantastic. She used to like the pain cave. She told me in confidence. Oh, damn. I just revealed that to 2,000 people downloading it. Okay. No,
and the couch stretch. Do you remember the couch stretch when you put,
It was all great stuff at the time. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
And also it was preached to us by someone who was rolling down a hill on a skateboard as he talked to us. You know, how could you not respect that and take everything?
Sorry, can I ask a question? Should I not be doing the couch stretch then?
Who's gonna? So yeah, we had this discussion the other day. So me and Natalie told you, Mark, it's not about stretching, it's about mobility, Mark.
Yeah.
So don't spend your 40 minutes before your session to do your stretching. You should just be doing mobility. You listen to me and Natalie. Stop stretching.
I spent my 1 minute preparation before the session getting my mindset right.
That's really good. We could do a whole month on mobility.
Well, anybody who's watching this that's seen me train will automatically say that's bollocks, Mark. So,
and there we go. We're now officially 18 on YouTube. Thank you very much for that, Mark Wilson.
That means I
know that little box which says this is suitable for children. I have to go. No, not anymore. That's fine. That's okay. That's all right. It's been worse. I've had guests on here. Alice Sanvita was the best one when she realized that Adam Meekins was listening to the podcast, and she said, and she's like a mature woman and doesn't look like someone who's going to come out what she did. And she goes, "Is Adam here looking at us?" Fuck you, Adam! Just out of the blue on the podcast live. And I'm like, thank you, Alice. Of all the people I expected to do that. So yes.
Well, I think Natalie was very restrained tonight.
Was she really? I don't know.
Yes.
Oh, right, really.
Swears like a trooper.
Coach Potty Mouth. Is that why I got it?
Just passionate.
There is a research. There was a study done where if you swear. Your pain sensitivity, the pain test, isn't it? Am I right, Mark? Yeah. If you swear, the pain sensitivity test is lower.
Well, there's been a couple of those used for mental toughness, where you put your hand in ice bucket, sort of like an ice bucket challenge, but they keep the ice, they keep the temperature consistent. It's circulated, but swearing helps you hold on pain for longer.
Yeah, so, we are certain, Natalie.
We always kind of know that. That's Brilliant. Okay, well, thank you, gang. Thank you so much for joining us, Natalie, Mark, and Anna Maria. Like I say, hang around. I'm going to sign out now for everyone who's still live with this, but hang around, and I'll thank you personally afterwards when we go off air. But yeah, people have joined us live. Thank you, as always, for coming in. If you're listening to this podcast, which I should get out in a couple of days, and you fancy joining in live and being in the audience and asking some questions, then we're here every Tuesday, 8 o'clock UK time, which is GMT at the moment. And like I say, you can join us on the Sports Therapy Association Facebook page. You don't have to pay or do anything to join up. You just answer a question and that's it. You get in there. Or you can join it in on via YouTube, where you just simply click on the live link as it goes, and then you'll be there. So thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back, like I say, next week with more CrossFit. I'm not sure who the guest is, but it will be another aspect of CrossFit, which we'll go over. If you have any questions, then feel free to send them to matt@thesta.co.uk, or indeed just keep the post going here on Facebook. Write some comments in, anything which you're interested in knowing. I can forward them on to our guests in case there's anything, and it stays live. This will be the CrossFit place to put questions and answers in here now. So once again, thanks to my guests. Look after each other, people, and we'll be back next Tuesday. Take care.